Welcome to Open Session with Greg Stafford. I'm someone who's been involved with religious studies and religious circles, particularly as they pertain to the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, Jehovah's Witnesses, and other groups, as well as groups who have been around, you could say, a lot longer, like different Protestant or Catholic groups, because I've been involved with them while I've studied and or been a part of the Watchtower Society or my own group. Which relates to just three things, right? We're about promoting belief in God, the God Jah, Jahuah, Jaho, according to the Bible, the best available evidence, and we believe in Jesus as the Messiah, but we talk about other things, right? I do different videos, I try to anyway, for the people who enjoy what I have to say primarily on religious stuff. So we do movie reviews with the idea of checking out the movie for different content and theme that involves hidden imagery and symbols so that we can determine whether or not it's a good movie to go see or what's really going on, right? What's the movie trying to tell us? Overtly and then covertly with these hidden images and symbols that we find. But primarily, I talk about the Bible. I talk about things related directly to the Bible and other ancient texts. That's where we get our beliefs. And I also talk about related issues involving Jehovah's Witnesses, the Watchtower Society, and other groups. But I don't take a negative view in those discussions. Just because of my background and my defense of many Watchtower beliefs, in fact, I'm well known in those circles. And in others related to things like the Trinity, certain grammatical issues like Sharp's Rule and others that just come up a lot when you have this history. Where if you're involved with a group like the Watchtower, you do a lot of door-to-door work or other work nowadays in ways that really get you involved. And if you take it seriously like I do, whether you're with Watchtower or not, then you just keep studying, you keep growing, you keep learning. But my background primarily is not politics, Republican, Democrat in the United States. There are other parties, but those are the main two that not only I think people outside the United States hear about, but that people in the world really tend to think about because those are the candidates that show up, right? You don't really hear a lot about some of the other candidates or parties in those candidates in the other parties. So now I do, because I read a lot, I've been involved in studies, and I've taken school to a certain point, which I'll finish, at some point, but had to stop because of work and raising a family. And so through life and through those various endeavors, right, I've been involved with or done studies of and read numerous things related to politics, right? Especially, I would say, there are two moments I can trace back to where I really began to think about politics. The first one was the election between George Bush and Al Gore. I think it was 2000. And the reason that got my attention was, of course, at that point I was married in my late 20s. And the election between Bush and Gore was the only one I remember being contested like that, where they spent months going through the different ballots to... I'll never forget the vision of the guy with the magnifying glass looking at the ballot to determine if what they called the Chad was fully punched through, or if it was a hanging Chad, like still dangling on there, but like 80% punched through, and then whether or not that was a good ballot. It was insane. But it captivated people for several months and thereafter because it was so contested, it got people really fired up. People like me who was involved with the Watchtower, right? At that point, I was in the height of close to the height, right? Around 2000. That's when I released the second edition of JWD. So, to get my attention, right, during that period, it had to be pretty big. When you say I had no involvement, nor do I have any interest really. I mean, I'm in the United States, but I'm not really voting. I'm in with the Watchtower, so we don't do that. We're not involved in politics and things that are considered part of the world in that way. No, I mean, that's not the case with me today. I'll explain that more further in a moment. And I understand the Watchtower's position. I'm just talking about how things are there. And certainly were when I was there. So, when that happened, it was like, wow, it was a big deal. So then carrying into the next election, there was all this interest, like who's going to win, right? Is it going to be Bush, or I think it was John Kerry he was running against the second time. But Bush beat him pretty badly. So then that kind of, people were like, oh, okay. That sort of made the first contested election with Bush in 2000. Kind of like everyone let that go, because when Bush beat Kerry and you didn't have all that controversy, it just killed it. And then Bush, after he stopped, you had Obama, right? Okay, so the first political event, I'm not talking about things like 9/11. Obviously, that got my attention. That's a separate, I'll talk about that a separate time, what happened on that day. But that's not what I'm talking about right now. I'm talking about the political system, right? Like, we have an election coming up this Tuesday, November 3rd, and I think almost everyone in the world knows about it, right? Because Trump is a very well-known figure. But I'm not really a political guy. Now, I do follow it. I'm not unaware. And so that's why I'm okay talking about it. I'm pretty up to date. But I'm giving you kind of a history so you know where I come from in terms of just thinking about these things more than being with the Watchtower, writing books, doing my insurance career, raising a family, right? All that was happening during this time. So the second event, though, and while we're talking about it, I will pull something up. The second event, I'm going to pull up an article that I wrote that has an image. Well, yeah, I will. So let me go to that while I do it. I'll bring it up because it relates to it. The second event that really got me thinking about politics and really has continued since, in other words, whereas with the whole Bush-Gore election in 2000, with that creating kind of this broader awareness in people's minds about politics, and that dying off kind of after he beat Kerry. So there just wasn't this political intrigue very much. When Obama came around, most people were like pretty okay. No one really knew what he stood for, right? I mean, he only had been, I think, a 2-term senator or 2-year community activist. So he did things, but he didn't have any real history you could look at and say. He had this kind of church attendance, which is pretty questionable, but either way, everyone has something, I guess, you could point to. And so the question really is, what was he going to be like? And I really can tell you, based on my experience, almost everybody was willing to give the guy, they looked at it as like, he seemed like a good guy, someone solid and respectable, without a lot of baggage, right? He was married, he had 2 daughters. Now, there's been some questions since then, but what I'm saying is at the time when Obama was running elected against McCain, first time, I think it was McCain, right? Yeah, McCain, then Romney. So, either way, he seemed like a nice guy. He seemed pretty, there was nothing really to grab your attention and say, wait a minute, I thought it was interesting myself, I don't mind saying, that his name was Barack Obama. It just seemed a little odd to me because the United States had never had that I can think of, a president that seemed like it sounded like an Arab name. I don't have a problem with it personally. It just stood out. It was a little different, a lot different in ways that most people, it still didn't make you think less of Obama. You just realized he had a name that was, he claimed to be Christian though. One time he slipped up, right, in an interview. He said, my Muslim faith. And then George Stephanopoulos corrected him and said, your Christian faith. He goes, my Christian faith. But either way, we had this kind of awareness that he was a Christian, but he had this Arab Muslim name kind of Arab-associated Muslim name in most Americans' minds, right? It might be the initial thing you think of. But then you find out, right? Just like if you heard an American name, you might associate with a typical American religion at first and then find out, okay, so you're this or you're that. Either way, so there were these kind of things. The whole birth certificate thing, I mean, that wasn't it was for some, I guess, but either way, he seemed like a nice guy. They really held him well, and he seemed to just be acceptable, nice, And he was, well, I'm going to use the word black, right? But as you know, I use black in quotes because black is not really correct. In fact, it's incorrect, right? It's a color, not a race. And it aggregates all these different races. But I'm not going to get into the racial thing in this video. So I'll qualify it there and we'll move on. And I'll do the same thing for white, right? We'll just use it for convenience right now because that's where we are and this isn't about that. So I think everyone was pretty acceptable too, that fine, America is kind of proud in one sense of diversity. And maybe that has to do with the past in some sense. But again, as I've stated, while Americans participated in the slave trade, a long time ago, they didn't start it. And we ended it. Period. That's it. So unless you support slavery or are against ending it, right, there are people who have been affected in ways where over time we'll still have to, if they're, going to be reasonable in ways I think that politically they could help heal from. But there are certainly bridgeable differences that if people want to, can be affected. But the Americans get the worst rap, right? Because I guess it's ended here, although it's still happening in Africa and in Arab countries. The Europeans and the Arabs and the Nigerians were doing it a lot longer before the Americans got involved. The Muslims were doing it the longest and have been. Right? Does that make every Muslim, responsible for slavery? It would even be more the case with them than it would be any Americans, I can tell you that. Well, maybe not any Americans, but I don't know. I'm talking about people who are just here, not in direct relationship to people who have obviously clear ties to benefiting from slavery. So I'm not going to get into that a lot more in this video, though, but I'm just pointing out the kind of atmosphere that was related to Obama in ways where people who, while we didn't see America as this bad slavery place necessarily today, and certainly, again, in comparison to African nations, Arab nations, and European nations, Americans were doing slavery a lot less, and Americans ended it. Yes, we did. And it's not happening in this country today. Nowhere. So, yet it's still brought up like it's everywhere. It's ridiculous. And if it's anywhere, it's in the Arab countries and African parts of Africa, where certain Muslims and other groups, ethnic groups, are practicing slavery. And they are. Just look it up. All you have to do is type in modern slavery. Where is it happening? It will shock you. Or maybe not. Right? Either way, so I'm giving you kind of a little bit of a discussion of American history and slavery and different racial issues, right? Obama, politics. This is all tied in. Right? In some sense, this is all tied in with American thought and life, at least historically, of course. And then the media is a whole nother side. But in any case, you have these kinds of thoughts and conversations in the United States. Now, I will say the way I'm talking about it, that's not how you hear it here. What I mean is, you're not going to find like a lot of shows or news channels. There are some actually. In fact, there are people like Candace Owens and others who have great shows. There's another one out here in Los Angeles. I'll think of his name in a moment. He's really good, though. Oh, boy. In any case, there are a lot of people who actually do tell the true history about America, slavery, and all these other nations and peoples and stuff. And then there are a lot of blacks in America. Right? I use black just because of convenience. It actually should be divided further into races, but like with white, we'll move forward. There are a lot of blacks in this country who they don't even know their ethnicity. It's true. And yet they run around and act like they have a direct tie to people who were enslaved and brought over here and treated like the worst of humanity. And yet, I know blacks who they've tested them in these ways and told me, because obviously I pushed someone to go test, but I've asked them, and you can tell by their response they don't know, because they don't know. And now some blacks take it very seriously, of course, and they know. But they're the ones who also know the other ones who aren't, and who make an issue out of it like they are. Right? So, for example, Kamala Harris. She is not African American. Kamala Harris, the vice presidential candidate for Joe Biden, presidential candidate, Democratic Party, United States. No, she is Dominican Republic, I believe, or Jamaican. One of those two. And neither one of those is African American or African, right? So you get a lot of this confusion. And I'm looking for this one article that I put up. I'm going to get to while I'm talking about this stuff. And whether I get to it or not, I'll bring up the photos. But I have this one thing that I wrote that I haven't really brought up. Oh, there it is. Okay, good. So, what's the second? Now, I was kind of talking about a few things, and I think importantly, because I brought you up through the whole Obama years and a lot of the cultural, racial stuff that kind of is thought of or brought up, although they don't really go like I did on the slavery discussion, into the European, Muslim, Nigerian, other African nations, much greater involvement and continued involvement with slavery, right? They kind of focus oddly, but not really oddly when you understand this country's media. It's a fake news, right? It's all, for a large part, it's foreign entity owned, like China and other countries. They just use their money to influence, what they say. And or just liberal Democrat groups that also influence these media outlets, which is why you see a lot of American sports being turned kind of gay, right? They are. They get feminized, and people are turning them out, right? They try to include more homosexuality in these things, non-gender things. They want to include women where there really are only men who could play these types of sports in the way that they play them with that full contact and not get hurt. Right? There may be an exception here or two there, but overall, right, it's just not how people are made or born. But these networks pay the sports owners, right? And then they make money off of the commercials. So the networks, to me, are really the ones behind this transformation of these sports into these advocates for wokeism, which is really dorkism, right? It's really dummism. It's really, we actually support China and we don't tell you ism, right? Look at LeBron James. Do you ever hear him talking bad about China? Why not? Do you know who treats African Americans probably the worst? China. He gets paid from China. That's why he doesn't talk bad about them. And yet he is allowed to make money, do all these things, and he just constantly bags on America, right? Calls for defunding the police, all this stuff, which he would call for immediately if he were being robbed. So they're just hypocrites. They're paid advocates for these liberal, homosexual, woke groups who are really anti-Christian, right? They promote these disgusting religions that relate to pedo, child, sacrifice, Marina Abramovich, right? And Hollywood spirit cooking. These things are disgusting, right? And who died a few years ago? Hugh Hefner, one of the most abusive people on the planet, right? Said, oh, we'll never go back to those days where I guess they didn't have all that abuse, right? Homo and otherwise, right? Look at all the women he destroyed. Think of all the women who went to Hugh Hefner and were destroyed. That's who they promote. That's who they actually want you to follow. And they all just lie, right? So we have to be careful. That's why I put an image of a picture of a kid reading a Bible as the silhouette for this open session. We've got to be careful because these people are not, in one sense, they're disgusting and dumb, right? because they're picking the worst way to live their life. They can do it, right? We're not here to stop them. They're trying to stop us, right? That's why, we can't take that. I'm not out there trying to stop homos from ripping up each other's rear end and calling it love. That's what it is, right? Or whatever other way they want to abuse themselves that isn't hetero. They can do it. I'm not going to stop them. It's legal. I'm also not going to lie and pretend it's good for you. There's no evidence of that. All evidence shows it's not good for you. So I'm actually someone trying to help them by being honest and telling it like it is. They just don't like to hear it. Well, it's just like with anything else. When people don't like you pointing out something that's true that they do and they don't want to hear it, well, that's what happens. They try to silence you. They try to control you because they don't have anything to use. There is no evidence that shows homo's a good way to live. None. Yet it's one of the Democratic Party platforms, right? They promote this gay lifestyle that is so destructive to all parties. There's no beneficiary. None. And so, yeah, it may make them feel good in a way that allows them to deal with their mental illness, but that's not helping them. And that certainly, even if you allow them to deal with it in that way, which I'm not trying to stop, you don't promote it. You don't say, hey, this is a good thing. Let's put it in all of our movies, our TVs. Let's write about it. Let's have all these persons and people, these men dressed like women, women dressed like men. That's great. That's going to better the human race. No. If you want to be that nice to a few people with mental issues, go ahead. You don't force the whole world of people who are having sex normally to adopt an abusive lifestyle or mindset just so they feel better about what they can do on their own. You see how nuts it gets? And we're talking about adult stuff, right? And then you get the pedo, right? So they're just spiraling down this canyon of sickness. It doesn't end, right? Once they start abusing their rear ends, what's next? Right? They got to walk around and plug them. I'll talk about it. I will. Because no one else will, or few will. But I don't want to. Let's get political. Let's get back to that because we already know, well, this is political, right? It's one of the Democratic Party platform issues. Homo. Right? I'm not trying to outlaw it, but they're trying to promote it and make it something we have to learn about. Part of our curriculum. We have to learn about how these abusive people interact with each other. Why? I'm not an abusive person. I'm not a homo. Right? They want to abuse each other and call it love. If you want to promote that, go ahead, but I'm not taking a class for that. I'm not sending my kid to that school so you can teach them about gay pride. Pride in what? Being abusive? Treating someone bad and calling it love? Damaging their body and pretending you didn't while they're bleeding and you got to call a proctologist? On average, reducing their lifespan by 20 years? Tell me one benefit, homos. One. Other than the momentary satisfaction you get because of the simulated sex leading to ejaculation, fine. You could do that in another way that wouldn't be as bad for you or that person. And either way, why are you calling that love? Why are you putting that in our face and telling us we have to like that? We have to think that's okay. No, we don't. It's kind of odd that you do, but guess what? We're so nice about it. We're going to let you homos go ahead and abuse yourselves. Leave us alone, okay? We're trying to focus on the hetero stuff that's keeping the planet going. So stop trying to push laws and things that promote abuse of us or our children, okay? You've already got the legal right to abuse yourselves. You can call it love. We don't have to agree with you. I can show you it's totally different from real love. You may define it the way you want to. Fine. I don't have to. No, I don't. See, they want to control us. No, you won't. And there you have it. Okay, so let me show you this thing. The second thing, I still haven't got to it, but it relates to this. First thing was the George Bush, Al Gore 2000 election, right? That was like, whoa, okay, it's all kind of pay attention, but then it kind of faded. Then you get the whole Obama thing, right? I talked about America's view of that, the slavery thing. But the second big political thing that got me going and has kept me going, like to right now, how do I want to say this? I don't know if I'll trigger a YouTube algorithm. So, how do I not? Okay, what got me focused, it ends in gate. And now I'm going to tell you what it starts with. Pizza. Right? That thing that in this country was made to seem like this bizarre theory that this whacked out guy had, and went in and freaked out on this pizza place because he wrongly thought it was a place where all this pedo and child trafficking was going on. And I remember hearing about that story, and I remember the media repeatedly talking about how it was debunked and how there was nothing to it, and how it was a fake conspiracy theory. And I didn't really know enough yet. But it had come up, the thing that ends in gate and that starts with pizza. I don't want to trigger the algorithm on that. Some of these things might be more watched for than others. But you can tell what I'm talking about, right? So, I remember it coming up, and I remember the media just making it as clear as possible in their different news shows and outlets, and what I read, that it was a debunked conspiracy theory. It was not true. It was nut stuff. And I wasn't, again, I'm a Bible guy, right? I'm more focused on these other things, and so my time goes there primarily, and then insurance. So I'm not really focused on all this political. I do watch, as you can tell, I read a lot, and so I'm aware. But it wasn't like my primary focus. But in being aware, I heard about it. I noted that the media had debunked it. So I was like, okay, well, I guess, it was no big thing. But then I saw a picture. I saw a picture of the pizza place that is related to the thing that ends in gate. And when I saw the picture, it was on a story. In fact, it was still kind of one of those stories where it was talking about this one, though. It was I remember it being, I think, a YouTube video I watched maybe back in 2015, right? Not too long after this happened. I watched a YouTube video, and it kind of drew my attention to the place, the pizza place. And this is what I saw. This is what I saw. See that comet sign, obviously, and notice the red circles on the four corners that contain the crescent moon and the five-pointed star. And then, as you can see below, it shows what those symbols represent or where they relate to, right? The image of the Baphomet, where the Baphomet has this crescent moon and the five-point star. So here you have it 4 times on the sign of the pizza place involved in the pizza thing that ends in gate. When I saw this, I thought, wait a minute. Because I was starting to become more aware of this through my different involvements with people during my period between the time from the Watchtower into what I do now, where I got to know different people in ways where they were doing different things to try to keep me from coming back to being what I am now, right? And this is why, because they were more related to this stuff than what you and I are related to. So I began to become more aware of these, the sun and moon and stars things, right? This is from my article, by the way, on my blog. If you haven't read this, you need to read this. This is from my blog, Watching the Ministry. You can get to it through elihubooks.com. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing here. But, so it was written back in 2018. But notice the different things I highlight, right? There's this image from Friends, right? You get the moon here, you get the sun and moon, and then there are stars around it on the outside. Then you get this trophy from a school, elementary, middle school in the area near me, right? It's like a crescent moon, 5-point star, and you got the 4 or 5-pointed stars, right? And then you got the image of this person here. This is a criminal in Los Angeles in 2014 with the crescent moon there, tattoo. Look at it again. You get the 4 stars, which match exactly the pattern of the trophy from the elementary school. And I believe there's a good reason for that, because a lot of these people are related or involved with different things. And then look, I was on a plane back from Dallas, and while I was on the plane ride, I decided to watch a movie. And so I, it was limited selection, but I knew I had heard so many bad things about the last night Transformers movie. I stopped watching these. I went and watched a couple with my kids. The first one, that one was okay. And then the second 2, the third one I almost walked out of, though. It was terrible. The second one was terrible too. I'm not sure. I think maybe we did go see the 4th one, Age of Extinction, because they took like a time off delay, and we thought, well, maybe they'll do it better. It was terrible. I almost walked out of it. I would have walked out of it too, but my youngest son had fell asleep in it. Boy, that was terrible. Then this one came out, and I just said, no way. But then I was on the plane ride back from Dallas. So I thought, okay, fine. Let's see how bad this is, right? If nothing else, I'll fall asleep, right? And then I was watching it, and then I saw this. Right? Because I had my headphones on for whatever reason. I think I saw the words, or I heard the words. But I saw this, right? He holds up this clock. And look at it. It's got gold and silver or blue rays, right? Like moon. It's a sun and moon. Once again, combined. And look at the bottom. This is what really I was like, whoa. Look at below. Look at his hand. It's a crescent moon with 4 bullet holes. Look at her face. It's a crescent moon with 4 stars. Look at the trophy. Crescent moon, 4 stars. Sun and moon. And then right below it, right? You'd have to know what you're looking for. I know these people. They know me and I know them, and they really did try to damage me in many ways. But they failed, right? I worship Yahweh, they don't. End of story. Right? So this is what they are about. This is their symbols. These are the things they use to communicate who they are to each other, and whether or not it's their movie, right? Whether or not, right, if it's a criminal and they get arrested by a cop. Look at my eye tattoo. It's by her eye nonetheless, right? You know the whole thing with the eye, left and right eye. Right? See, that would be an immediate... If a certain cop picks this person up, right? See, the people watching this movie, if you see what I noted here, now you know, okay, they know. Michael, okay, they know who he is now. What is it then? Right? Look at it. Look at how cleverly it's hidden. Right? It's even kind of, you got the crescent moon in his hand. See, that shot is set up. It's set up like that to where you focus. You got the main actor, right? Anthony Hopkins. Holding this up saying, let him out. We all died terrible deaths. What are they talking about? Well, they got the sun and moon right here. And they have the crescent moon and the 4 stars right there. You don't believe me? Still don't believe me? Okay. Well, what do you have here? Take a good look. Squint your eyes like this. What do you see? It makes the top part brighter, right? Like a moon. Or sun. Probably the sun. Or it could be the moon at night, right? Probably the sun, though, because it's really bright, and here you have the moon. Or this is the star, the crescent moon, I should say. And here are your 4 stars. 1, 2, 3, Beyonce number 4. It's sun and moon and moon and stars. I pointed it out right there. See, that's my drawing, highlighting the sun, moon, the way I saw it there. It could be a couple things, but it's one or the other, right? And then the 4 stars. Still don't believe me? No? Well, what if we take the shot right here, sun and moon and stars, crescent moon and stars, sun and moon, and look at it now, positioned above an upside down cross. I think they're trying to tell us something, everyone. Why am I getting to this in a political discussion? Because, do you remember who was on stage with Hillary Clinton when she was running against Trump? Jay-Z and Beyonce. This is all political. All these actors, all these entertainers, all this stuff. Right? Who's behind the Democratic Party? Hollywood. Who's behind breaking U.S. laws and making it easier for criminals to operate here without being tough on immigration in ways that allow good people to come here the right way and criminal people to stay out like any other country? Who's behind all that? It's the Democrats. The Democrats push that because they want the criminals to vote for them. Or they want people on welfare as a continuous voting base, so they're basically buying votes. We'll get into it more, but right now, focus on these things. Right, we can look at all these other political issues, policies. We talked about homo. We know that, right? We're not here to stop homo, right? It's not a great law. I mean, probably not a great idea to criminalize it, just like with abortion. I don't think abortion is good, obviously, right? But if you try to outlaw it, you'll just make it more difficult for people in ways where if you just try to educate people that it's the bad thing to do, you're more likely to persuade people away from it than any law would do. But, it's not an easy decision one way or the other. Either way, you can see homo the same way, right? I don't see the benefit in outlawing it. I don't see the benefit in doing it. But see, I believe if you just represent the truth about it, right? I'm nice to homos, just like I'm nice to people who smoke cigarettes. I don't find either one of them to be a clean habit, which is why I don't do them. So why would they expect me not to find it disgusting in a way that explains why I don't do it? It's not a surprise, is it? Right? If you're repeatedly rupturing your rear end and using fecal matter as a lubricant, it's not a big surprise that people find that abusive and disgusting. But guess what? We're so loving. We realize you have a problem recognizing how to use your body and someone else's, and that both of you want to use it a certain way. Okay, you do that. And leave us alone. Make your own movies, right? Stop invading our movies. Write your own books. Do your own things. We don't have to be so involved with things we don't practice. We'll work with you. We'll say hi and bye to you. We'll be friendly even to you in a way that if you're in danger, I'll give my life for you. I would. A lot of homos who I've known, they know that. I've proven that. So it's not the issue. The issue is they feel bad about what they're doing. And we remind them of that. And now they don't want to be reminded anymore, so they're lashing out in a way that seems like they want to affect control so they can just be abusive in ways we're already allowing without them feeling like they have to control us, but that they're just not getting it. A lot of them are not getting it. Some do. There are actually quite a few homos who, you know, in terms of everything but their sexual practice, are very normal, right? Whereas a lot of the leftist liberal homos, they're not sexually normal, nor are they normal up here. They're nuts. The way they try to control people and the way they're unfair and they're the worst. Some of the worst. Some of the racists are the worst too. Some of the Trinitarians are pretty bad, but they're actually not that bad. Maybe a couple. Either way, look at this, right? Look at what they're doing, okay? I don't do this. I don't know any Christians who are doing this in our movies, marking criminals with their symbol, right? Using it as a massive display for Beyonce to promote this view. Again, this is like a massive ritual. It's like they're casting a spell through these imagery and their music. And look at Jay-Z and Beyonce, right? He's known to be a follower of Aleister Crowley. Wears his shirt. One of the stupidest people who've ever lived, right? One of his greatest experiences was getting sodomized outside of a ritual circle in a desert. These are the people they idolize and promote, right? People who think they're serving the Egyptian gods when their life ends in a catastrophe legally and you can't even win a court case. And I don't think you're anywhere near the pharaohs when it comes to the Egyptian gods. But either way, that's who they follow, right? People like Aleister Crowley. He couldn't even finish his own spells, as I've mentioned before, right? I'm not talking about how this guy's looked to as like a major figure, and he's, to me, one of the greatest failures of humankind in human history. And it's not just me giving my opinion, I'm giving you facts, right? Can't win court cases. Greatest memory, one of them, getting abused outside of a ritual circle in a desert. And he can't even finish his own spells, the Abramelin spell. Stuff that's not important, right? That I just happen to know about in ways that show clearly. You know, what are you taking this guy seriously for? They do, right? Look at it. It's all over their stuff. Anti-Christian symbol right there. Boom. I've got a lot more, too. I'm going to do Sun and Moon and Stars Part 2 probably, but at this point, who cares, right? It's so obvious. But you got all these Disney movies, right? What's happening to Disney right now? They're getting crushed. They're getting smashed. Just like all these criminals and Hollywood dumbs, right? It has not paid off. It's not working for them. They keep pouring it on though, right? It's like, let's throw up some more symbols. Let's turn more people gay, right? So they become abusive like us. And then they won't bother us about being abusive because we're all abusive, right? Is that the goal? Come on. That's nuts. All right, look at this stuff. Universal, Despicable Me. Again, same thing as the Baphomet here, right? Crescent Moon, 5-point star, right here. I know what you did last summer. Well, I know what you didn't do last summer. Right? You didn't praise Jah or even try to become a better person. You just sat around with a bunch of these witchcraft people and devil worshippers and killed each other. Nice job. It's not entertainment. It just heightens your senses in ways that make you addicted to it, right? I grew up watching certain movies, like Friday the 13th and Halloween, because of my family watching it and stuff, so I'm used to it, but it's just dumb, right? Stupid. Like these things, right? I remember MTV growing up. I don't remember this, right? It kind of got past me because I just wasn't looking for it, right? The whole, again, look at it. 1980s, sun, moon, 4 stars. Who's the star in this case? It's not Beyonce. Boy George, right? You get the whole Ouija board type thing, right? So it's not like a hidden thing. We know what this is all about. And so you get these different things, right? You get the sun and moon. Not just the monster thing and the whole cross type stuff, but on the can here, in this case, you get the sun and moon, stars, Saturn, all this stuff. I drew kind of an outline how I see it. So I'd encourage you, I'll put a link to this below in case you haven't seen it, right? Even our cat food, right? I used to buy that food, but they like it. But the became too popular with the ants in ways where I can still get it because I seal it better now. But look at this stuff, right? You get the whole, they put it everywhere. They're ruining all our stuff. So when I saw this, right, this goes back to politics. It does. It's underpinning a lot of it, really. But in this case, it's helped define my second most political moment when I recognized that on the Comet Pizza sign, you had this sun and moon, or you had this moon and star, really, right? The 5-point star, just like on the Baphomet. And all those other images I was showing you. So, there's a lot of stuff here. So let me take a look at some of your comments. And we're going to get into a couple more political things. We're going to go to CNN in just a moment. But let's see. Yeah, I know the good and left point, but the right and left eye have their bad points. And what was I showing you in those images, right? Let's go back to it. I'm showing you how they're using it, right? Yes, of course you can use a lot of things in a good and bad way. But what were they doing? Or what was the in this case, well, with the left eye, she wasn't covering it, right? But I've shown that in some of my Hollywood garbage dumps and things, and we've seen that a lot. They do that a lot in celebrity pictures, right? Where they do the whole 666 with the eye thing. That's not me. I didn't do that. If I see anyone capturing that and presenting it, of course, it's fake news, right? I'm showing you an example of what they do. They hold that up. Now, this used to mean okay. Okay, when I was growing up. But I didn't know it as anything else. I remember using that, going this like a lot of times. Or the peace sign. But now I'm more aware of it. And I know it still can be used as okay or peace. Right? Just like I did when I was a kid. But it really has a lot to do with other things as well. So here I just find it, right? Why put that by your left eye? Why not somewhere? You have your whole neck, right? The neck tattoos are popular. By your eye? I mean, that's kind of a double signifier to me, right? By your left eye with the 4 stars and the crescent moon. Look at it. Look, it's not just in one place. Okay, it's in a popular sitcom, a middle school trophy, a criminal's left eye, right? To me, that's to show the officer, right? Or whoever is interviewing you. Are you with me, right? Okay. Oh, they are. They infiltrate. They do anything that they want to, that they think they can take over and take advantage of. These criminals will do. Democrats will do. I'm sure certain Republicans or conservatives may. I don't know. It doesn't strike me that they are that involved. Although the Trinitarian Apologetic nuts, maybe there's certain segments of the conservative wing, the really extreme, maybe aspects are a little more nutty in that way, right? I don't pretend in that way. I am who I am, right? I can kind of get along, just keep things in check. But, I don't need any symbols or any of this stuff. I'm not involved in any kind of crime or lying and stuff. I don't need to, right? That's all weak. Right? It just shows how weak you are, right? You can't get on in life without having a massive moral obligation to pay off later on, which is what they're doing. But they use these things, right? What about this? I mean, look at that. You think that's an accident? You got both the sun and moon. You got the crescent as his hand and the 4 stars matching exactly the type of anti-Christian things we find in all of these things. I mean, hey, believe whatever you want. Have a great life. Vote however you choose. But let's talk about whom we should choose, or if you're going to choose anyone, right? So understand those things, right? Oh, Bankhead, you should go back. Well, not now. You'll enjoy the first part. We talked a lot about some of the things you're just noticing, because I'm watching the feed on a delay. But I just saw you join. So, there's a lot. We're kind of building up to the whole current day political division. I've talked about how in 2000, my first great political experience was the whole Bush-Gore election and the hanging chads and the contested election. And that got everyone's attention, right? I was still full watchtower, all the stuff, so not political. But it got my attention, like everyone's. And then kind of faded after the Kerry election. Then we got into Obama. We've talked about Obama and some of the racial, civil, and historical things related to the U.S., other nations' involvement in slavery, the U.S.'s involvement, and then it ending in the U.S., and how that kind of all led up to the current day with Obama and him being elected and then him actually becoming something different. We talked about how he seemed like a really good guy in all these ways, but really throughout his presidency, you started to see this alignment with China and sending away a lot of jobs and this moral breakdown, increased racism. It was terrible. And then, of course, Hillary Clinton involved with him. Then her emails get, sent out. You get her and Podesta with these really weird Moloch sacrificing, spirit cooking pedo emails. Marina Abramovich, all this stuff, right? All this political involvement with Hollywood spiritistic garbage. And so, in that time, I became familiar with, as I was saying, Bankhead, my second great political item, which was the thing that ends in gate and that begins with pizza. And I'm saying it that way to try to be more avoidance of the algorithm. And at first, when I heard about it, it was something that caught everyone's attention, right? This potential use of a place to traffic children at a pizza place. But the media was so against it, it kind of suppressed it in a lot of people's minds. I ended up watching a YouTube video that showed, like I was showing in this is my my blog. Let me pop you guys out. That was you guys in the chat. I'll put you guys over here. I didn't do that at the start. That's better. And then I'll show you once again. So this is that article. I mentioned this for you, Bankhead, because I'll put a link below. You may have seen it. I wrote it back in 2018. But it goes through all the stuff that you can watch in the first part of the video when you go over it again. But when I saw this, I realized there was more to it than what the news was talking about, right? Because I knew, because of that symbol in the four corners right there, and all these things, what I was following because of my experience with a lot of people that use these things, and then the Baphomet, of course, I knew, okay, there is something here. There is something here, right? And then of course the video showed a lot of really weird pedo stuff and this James Alefantis whack job guy who definitely seemed to be associated in some way, but I can't say for sure because it all has been so suppressed. So when I saw this, I started looking further into it and I started to see Alefantis' connection with the Democratic Party and the Washington people, Hillary, Obama, Podesta, the Podesta brothers, of course, being sick and disgusting people and their terrible, horrible art. One of which is based on the Jeffrey Dahmer victim. They're just terrible people. So then I started to realize, oh, wait a minute here. All these people I'm involved with on a personal and professional level who are involved in this whole sun and moon and stars thing and all this fraud and gang corruption and all this anti-Christian stuff that they're throwing at me, right? People I got involved with between leaving the Watchtower and between becoming, serious CWJah. I realized this is bigger, right? This is like on the political level. And then from there, I've been following it, right? I've been watching, okay. So you guys are all connected here. You guys are all tied in, and what you're doing is it's anti-Christian. That's what they are. I started realizing the Democrats don't really ever promote Christianity. Ever anymore. I don't ever hear it. Not in any kind of other than just maybe, real passive reference way. And again, as I've said before, I'm not here to promote the Republicans as like the Christian party. Of course, there are far more committed Christians and open advocates of Christianity on the Republican side than on the Democratic side. I think there are probably some Christian people on the Democratic side, but when you look at the advocates, the people at the top, the ones that we're talking about, Hillary, Podesta, Obama, Biden, Harris. Now, she lies about being African American. She's not. In fact, even at the debate with Biden, her and Cory Booker interrupted Biden to point out he was wrong about something related to the first African American senator, I believe. And it was not true. She lied right there pretending she was African American, which she continues to do to mislead people. She's either Jamaican or Dominican. So someone look that up and verify it. But, she's not African American. That's for sure. So you have all this association with these different people, right? These Hollywood people, Disney, Beyonce, Jay-Z, these stupid movies, criminals and dumb shows that promote these things, and all these abusive relationships. Nothing really wholesome or good in any Christian or non-Christian way that's just not abusive, right? Not going to cause you to, will just be abusive. I won't get into any graphic specifics at this point, but we've talked about it. So it's not hard to determine if you're being abused, right? If you've had sex with someone and you have to go see a proctologist afterward, you've been abused. If you're losing on average 20 years of your life in a relationship, you're being abused, right? So, there's different ways you can pretty much just show that most people won't argue with you over. Although, as we know, people will argue with you about anything. You got to be able to say, no, okay, fine. If that's what you want, I'm not here to try to stop you. You're trying to stop me from being hetero. And I don't have to see a proctologist after sex. So what's the advantage? There's none. There's not one advantage. I'm not aware of it. I'll listen. Homos, go. Right? You have an open ticket to tell me. Advantage number 1, advantage number 2, fine. And I will listen to you. Lesbo or male homo, whatever. Or pedo. There are no advantages other than the simulated pleasure of sex that you can get without all the abuse. So that doesn't count. Because you could do it on your own in a way, or with a regular hetero person, and not have all that terrible stuff I've only begun to mention. These are not things I'm making up. Facts. We're not hiding it anymore. We're done. We're done. We're going to talk about everything right out in the open. All your symbols and stuff, right out in the open. Okay, it's over. We see you. You just stop it already. Right? We're doing the garbage dumps. And I'm going to go back and go, you've got a lot of movies on record. We're going to go through and create an archive of garbage that you dumped on us and threw into the political realm behind these candidates like Hillary and Biden and Obama that led to wider acceptance of abusive relationships like homo, lesbo, transgendero, all the abusive stuff, pedo, cuties. Come on. This is not being made up. I'm just being honest. And a lot of you don't like it, right? Not you in the chat necessarily, but people who are doing the things that they know are not right? Or they'd be here saying, no, wait a minute, Greg, you're wrong. You're wrong on this, and this, right? It's live. Do it. Say it. Let's go. Or later. Comment. They don't. Because they know, right? That's why he's got his eyes covered right there. No, I'm kidding. I actually met him one time. I don't want to get into it, though. Very brief. It was weird. But it was no big deal. You actually seemed... I don't want to get into it. All right. So, it was just in passing, but at a place. So, it was a momentary encounter. And no, there was nothing more than that. But I was pretty close, and so I got a good appraisal at least. That's all I'm saying. So, nothing bad. Pretty much what you see or saw. All right, let's get through this here and get to some news. So I built this up, right, to talk about the whole association with me and religion, and then how it led to politics and a greater awareness starting in 2000, and then with the whole gate thing, Comet Pizza's use of those symbols that we find here, and with all these other movies and political associations, right? I think even, in fact, let me bring something up real quickly, and then we'll get right to politics. If you look, Obama bracelet to Biden. Obama gave Joe Biden a bracelet. And it's very interesting. I've got it. Look at this. This is the bracelet. You've probably seen it, but you know we've been talking about all these things, right? Sun and moon, stars, pizza, pedo, moral breakdown, all kind of associated with these democratic people. Pedo, Podesta, Biden, Obama, Hillary. Look at this bracelet in light of all we've been talking about. It's going to blow your mind if you know what I'm talking about. Look at that. Take a close look at that. What do you see? What do you see? I'll tell you what I see. I see a sun. Right? Look at the inside of that flower. Is that not a sun? Trying to make it bigger for you. It is. If you look close, just type in Obama's bracelet to Biden. I don't know why that's not going close. Oh, there it is. Look at it in the middle. See how it's a sun? It's like a flower, right? But it's actually, it's got a sun there in the middle. And this is a moon. And if you look up the significance of smiley face, I've talked about this. I think I talked about it in one of my garbage dumps. But you can look up type of significance of smiley face in occultic or whacked out practices. Not that certain occultists take it seriously and stuff that, that's fine. I'm talking about the ones who are a little bit more bizarre in their thinking and lie, right? Hide and deceive other people. So you have the smiley face having its own significance. This is Barack Obama's gift to Biden, the guy running for president and who could be elected in 2 days. Barack gave Joe a sun and moon smiley face bracelet. And look at over here. 5-pointed star. I'm telling you, it's all the same. And then what do you got right there? Pizza. A piece of pizza. You have a sun, moon, star, and a piece of pizza. And a smiley face. Here you have the star, the moon, and pizza. Moon, stars. The circles have stars in them. So you have the crescent moon, stars. A couple of them have Saturn, which has its own significance. Sun, right? Half moon, half sun. Sun and moon and stars. And a little girl. Yeah. Yeah, they take this stuff really seriously, everyone. And when I realized how seriously they were taking it, I knew I had to do something. I knew I had to talk about it. Because it was directly related to the anti-Christian behavior and activity I was dealing with. And I had to come out of. And that I wrote about for everyone. It was hard to get to this point. To put this all down and just get these images. I have a lot more. And I didn't even include this one, of course, right? I have some more. Just blow your mind, the ones I've found since then too, but I'll do another show on that sometime. Joe Biden probably has that around his wrist right now. This is not an accident, right? It's all the same stuff, everyone. So then I realized, okay, this isn't a separate thing. This is like directly related to what I'm trying to survive and then promote. And if these people get involved and these people get entrenched and they keep fighting against what I'm trying to promote, well, I don't want that, right? Unless I have to, right? Unless Jah says, no, this is the time. Otherwise, why would I allow people to make it worse for me and you to be open about our views while we're letting them do what they want and not lying about it and promote this pedo stuff? Pizza. Excuse me. Why does he have a piece of pizza on that? Why does he have a 5-pointed star and a moon and a sun? I think I know why. I have a pretty good idea why. Excuse me. Talking a lot. Excuse me. Maybe I'll edit that out later. It's a little bit throat clearing, right? I got a little dry. Because I started talking about this sun and moon stuff related to the politics, and it just started to come out right. Right? Because it is right. We're just looking at it. I mean, it's like you look at it and you're like, am I really seeing that? Yeah. We really are. I didn't really show you the full star. There you are. This was Biden's friendship bracelet dedicated to Obama. Sun and moon and stars and pizza. Don't you forget, Obama. I don't think he's forgotten. Let's see if CNN has forgotten. Let's take a look at this stuff. All right, let's look at some news, everyone. So, we have an election coming up, as we've been discussing, and we've been talking about, or at least I've been talking about, and I can see your comments. You know, my awareness of politics and how I became more involved in terms of coming from the Watchtower, which isn't politically active and kind of really doesn't get involved. And then recognizing in different people that I was involved with and their anti-Christian efforts against me, certain symbols and images that I then saw as part of this gate story involving pizza and the Democrats, a lot of Democratic people. No Republicans that I can recall, though. So it just sort of got me focused on the Democrats as, like, what are they doing? And the more I looked at them, the more I realized what they were doing. They were trying to destroy things to make them the way they wanted them. Right? Destroy the whole male-female binary relationship mode, right? Just make that like the way not to be, right? Promote everything anti that and effectively destroy society. So I realized these aren't really people who are interested in bettering the society. They're trying to destroy it so they can either take it over or better it in their own way, which isn't better, right? They have this way, right? They have the way that is the Baphomet, solve and coagula, right? Dissolve and rebuild, basically. They're just practicing this whole anti-Christian, Baphomism stuff that has really no credible basis behind it. It's a religion that's not recognized as any credible religion that they're practicing without telling anyone. So they're involved with all kinds of weird stuff. All the Aleister Crowley stuff. That's all these people. Right? Like, who do you think promoted the Baphomet? It was Aleister Crowley. Who do you think got all the 666 and the pan sign? It was Aleister Crowley who started bringing all that into popularity. So, when a political party gets this bad, right? When they're using these symbols and all this stuff and telling people who they are through their signage, right? Their cat food and their drinks and their Ouija boards and videos and movies and animated films and concerts, right? This was at the 2016 Music Awards, right? Beyonce in full sun and moon and stars glory over an upside down cross, right? These are Hillary's friends. And who does Hillary support? Biden, right? Biden was there with Obama for 8 years. Biden gave Obama this bracelet. So there's no way he could be unaware. He's telling Obama right here. We're the same. You and me. Right? That's why we were there for 8 years, right? That's why Obama's out there doing these car rallies for Biden right now. They know. So when it's this out and loud, okay? And in California, right, it's a Democratic-run state, although there's a lot of push against Newsom and stuff because he's basically gone nuts with his whole lockdown mode. You know, even a lot of Democrats who kind of are not as nutty as the ones we've been talking about, they've had it with these people. I'd be curious to find out what happens with the vote in California after November 3rd, because I just think there's a lot of people upset with the Democrats on a political, social level. And then you have all this, right? These weird associations with these demonic practices and ghoulish thinking and goat gods and Pan and pizza, right? Which represents pedo, right? Pizza. If you look up pizza in its representations in the FBI, all these different things that were used in these emails that came to light involving Hillary or Podesta from Hillary's emails. Walnut sauce, hot dogs, pizza, right? They're all coded language for pedo abuse and just weird stuff like you see right here on this bracelet. So, all right, let's get to some of the fake news and see what's happening. So, okay, so that's why I think a little bit more, in fact, a lot more about politics now. I've been aware of it in ways where, of course, just being a person in the United States, I follow it. You know, I have different interests, but mostly I'm involved with the Bible and stuff, right? And my own vocation, family and stuff. But now I've become more aware of politics, and so I may vote in this election just because I see such a difference. This isn't about promoting Republicans or Trump. I could pull up things that wouldn't be that flattering about a lot. We could do that with anyone, but that's not what I'm talking about when I talk about this. This is different, right? I don't do garbage dumps to point out certain immoral things, right? Or certain words that were said, right? Profane words, you know, whatever. We all know that stuff. Right? They're not hiding it. We can deal with what we know. At least I can, right? I can deal a lot better with what I know than someone who's lying to me, not showing me what they're really about. This stuff, this is different. They're not telling you what that sun, moon, and star, and smiley face and pizza mean. They're making this seem like just two young kids having fun, right? When really, this is the exact opposite of that. This is telling them, we like this. Right? We're good old anti-Christians, sun and moon and star, right? Right there. Okay, well, we don't have to look far to find out what is sun and moon and stars. And pizza. Right? So this is a different level, right? I wasn't as worried. Even during Obama, right? Back then, even though I had been kind of more aware with the whole 2000 thing and I was still growing, I didn't really see a major problem with Obama. I wasn't politically active. I didn't vote in that election or either one, but because I was more involved with my own situation, I just had to do a lot and I'd come from the Watchtower. But I didn't realize the type of differences I see now that I've looked at it more closely and I've seen these associations. You see? So that changed things to a level of, whoa, that's anti-Christian stuff here, right? This is pedo abuse there. That's different than someone who's just not always the best talking or does everything right, or even religiously, right? On the religious side with Republicans in the United States, conservatives, you have a lot of religious people, right? A lot of Christian groups, Catholics, Protestants, Mormons. right? And so they don't there are exceptions in cases, and you have a lot of issues with certain groups like Catholic priests and others, but for the most part, they don't promote pedo in these ways, these obvious or even subtle ways. They don't promote abortion, right? They're against abortion. Democrats promote abortion, right? They don't just allow it for the situations that are difficult to decide or for people. They promote it, right? It's a good thing. That's how they portray it in this country. Right? No shame at all. It's great, right? They'll wear a shirt. Like Gloria Steinem, one of the worst people who've ever lived. Right? One of the abortion queens of this century. And last, a horrible, disgusting woman. Well, she'll wear a shirt. I had an abortion. Great. So what? Why are you telling us? Why are you telling us you're a horrible, disgusting person? Good for you. Right? So this is what they do. They just come right out. They're trying to get us to accept this horrible, disgusting way, not just be religiously different. And right. So you have on the religious side, we have a lot of regular kind of religious people who just believe in their view of the Bible or other documents like the Book of Mormon or stuff. So they're not perfect or anything, right? But they're not promoting abortion or pedo or homo. They tolerate it for the most part, some groups, especially homo. Most people accept that as, if you want to do it, go for it. Abortion becomes more contested by some, but you see what I'm saying, though? That the sides represent clear differences on very significant levels, and now we're showing there's an anti-Christian element based on their use of symbols, my association with these people, what they openly tell us in their concerts and on their movies and in their beverages and different things, their bracelets, right? So when I'm confronted with a group that is more for individual achievement, not government control, right? The Democrats want a big government so they can employ a lot of people who believe like they do and pay themselves that way and then control everybody else, right? Either on welfare or otherwise. They'll cannibalize everything. They're nuts because they don't believe in, they do and they don't. The real nut ones don't. But a lot of them do, and they just kind of go along with the ones who don't because they feel guilty in some way. They have so much money. Whereas a lot of people in this country believe you should be able to achieve what you can and, have as few handouts as possible. Democrats are like, no, we'll help you and you do what we tell you. And then you have that plus the Democrats really being anti-Christian right now in their symbols and in their comments and in their advocacy for abusive relationships, homo and pedo, illegal practices like coming to the United States in droves in ways that the United States can't properly check and that overrun the system, make people who haven't paid taxes dependent on services here they didn't earn, right? When you could become a part of this country, or better, your own country, better yet, right? But either way, you shouldn't be breaking another country's laws unless that's what you expect. And most countries don't they? No, you just can't go there and start using their services. They'll throw you out or throw you in jail. Yet here it's like the Democrats make everyone feel bad about it just so they can get all the people to vote for them. They don't care. See, so they're not interested in really helping people. They just want them to keep them in power. And then, if anything, they don't want those people who kept them in power to be helped because then they'd no longer be able to keep them in power. They'd be doing their own thing and likely not worry about it. They want people worrying. That's why they're, in my view, bringing all this COVID nonsense upon us, closing down like in California, all these things. They're trying to depress people into voting their way. See, that's control. That's why the Obama campaign and Brennan and all those horrible people spied on Trump's campaign. That's been established as fact. They broke the law and couldn't even feel secure enough going into an election that they thought was going to be a landslide, not to spy and break the law and compromise all of these intelligence services. The Democrats have made the FBI in this country a joke. They really have. Comey was a total disaster. Can you believe that guy was actually in power like that? It's unbelievable. The guy they have now is not much better, I can tell you that. Either way, You can see by their works. Doesn't take much. But, you have Comey and the way that he acted in the way leading up to election involving Hillary. I mean, they're just so compromised, right? They're just so openly compromised, they can't do their job anymore. It's terrible. So that's why it's a little bit different now, in my view, or a lot different, because we have all these issues and people and fake news. Right, I start thinking about, like the kid in the thumbnail for this open session, reading the Bible or sitting down. Think of our children, the ones who are growing up. Now, they'll be fine. I don't want you to over worry, right? Because we were once young and, people didn't have to worry. So we can worry, but we shouldn't allow ourselves to be so worried that we become ineffective, right? The people will grow fine and they will be allowed to grow, like we learned in our last video with Matthew 13, wheat in the weeds. Jehovah is there, the angels are there, Jesus is there, but they'll have difficulty, right? So now we're in a position where we can help them become more effective religiously, and we need to help them understand things politically, not by taking a side, right? Just because things might look better on the Republican or conservative side right now, it doesn't mean it'll always be that way. But, and it doesn't mean that anyone who's involved with us or does our things has to vote in anything. But I'm just pointing out clear differences right now that have become so obvious and associated with symbols that people need to be aware of, and that could be a problem for us if we're not careful. Right? They're that committed to anti-Christian behavior, anti-Christian imagery, anti-Christian symbols, anti-Christian people. Well, they're going to try to be anti-Christian. They're already closing down churches and stuff over the COVID. So, I do not trust them as much as I do the people on the Republican side to not do those things, to not close down facilities and services and churches, and to not be anti-Christian. I'm not saying they're all Christian or do all things Christian or even right, but they're not anti-Christian. Right? They are not. That's a fact. No one could show that the Republican Conservative Party in this country is in any way likely to stop Christian activity or any religious activity. Even, their Aleister Crowley associated worship of the Baphomet and all that stuff, right? No one is trying to stop anyone except them. They're the ones who are actually doing the things that they're making us all worried about. And that's what we have to be careful over. They lie. So we get to CNN, right? Speaking of lies and the fake news. These people, most of the people, it seems to me, on the network are either homosexual or they're all pro-homo, it seems. No one ever points out the difficulties of homo. No one on CNN that I can recall has done a piece on the damage that homosexual lifestyles cause. Why not? Why wouldn't you want to help your fellow workers or anybody using that network and say, look, we understand a lot of people are homo. And if you want to be that, you're allowed to be. Legally, that's fine. But there are risks, there are dangers, and you need to be aware of them so you can properly weigh those against your desire for that kind of life. Was that so hard? They don't want to do it, though. They're not interested in helping people. They're interested in helping destroy other people or control them, right? They view the whole sodomy act as a form of mind control, like a trauma bonding. They do. Any kind of trauma. It could be the sodomy act or anything they think involves trauma and bonding. They go for this whole dumb MK Ultra mind control thing because they're too stupid to have a normal relationship, right? They gotta lie, steal, cheat, all the way through these different levels in life. Hope you vote for them while they're lying to you about their ethnicity, while they're lying to you about the severity of the disease, while they're lying to you about their religious belief, right? Muslim faith, Christian faith, well, which is it, right? It's not the kind of mistake you normally make. Either way, our outlets in this country are pretty much all discredited. Even Fox News, it has a little bit of credibility left, but not really much. Because even the stuff you might see as more conservative, it's so one-sided, it's like, gosh, it's hard to really promote it as like a good thing. But, you go to CNN and you are going to hear just nothing good. No help for homos, right? No pro-spiritual discussion of any credibility. It's all just this godless, abusive, fake news that attacks people nonstop, right? They're like the apologetic nuts in the political sense. It's funny because on the political side, we're more in line with the Trinitarian, Catholic, Protestant people in the moral sense. But in the religious side and the way that people act, they're more like the Democrats act to them on the political side. Seems that way. So we have CNN as a primary fake news advocate. Let's take a look. All right, we're 2 days away. They make that clear. So they're highlighting different petitions, right? Let's look at the middle column. I'll increase that so we're kind of looking at the same thing. So they're talking about a rift between Fauci and the White House bursting open, and it kind of just did. But Fauci has been back and forth on things in ways. He's not, Fauci really is way beyond where he should be. This whole issue with COVID is not a singular issue. It's not just a healthcare issue. And you should be integrative in your thinking and pull from a variety of disciplines so that you can properly analyze a multifaceted problem that's not just a health issue. It's not just the virus, which has, in many cases, a 0.1 or less percentage, more or less, fatality rate. You don't totally destroy the other aspects of society which keep people healthy and thriving. So he is not qualified to speak really on this issue publicly. He really shouldn't be. He should be just providing his opinion and the information medically based on his profession to those in charge of dealing with it as a broader issue. Because he can't integrate the other aspects of the issue properly in order to balance out what he's saying. So all you hear from Fauci is this one-sided stream of medical distress, which isn't even correct in many cases. He's flip-flop on the mask. Masks, other than in certain situations, are very difficult, in my opinion, because you're breathing in your own exhalation in ways where I think that's not good for you, the decreased oxygen. You're not meant to have that inhibition breathing, or we would have it. So other than in certain extreme cases or situations, and he's been back and forth on that. So CNN is not as nuanced as that, though, right? They can't look at Fauci and, like I did, see that he's way outside of his field, speaking only from one field on a multifaceted issue. And yet they highlight him as on the level of Trump, who really is, in this case, he has to be the prime mover or integrative thinker because he's not an expert in really any of those fields other than the business economic way. Maybe politically now, but certainly economically, business-wise, he is. But he has to pull from these disciplines and develop a strategy through integrative thinking, not a singular discipline. There's not just one discipline involved here. Only 4 states trending down in COVID-19 cases, right? Cases. They always focus on the cases because a lot of people are going to get this, right? It's not about getting it. It's how fatal is it? Are we going to survive? Because they're making the issue of the cases and the number of cases and this rising surge. It's nonstop, right? I have MSNBC also here. I guarantee you we'll find some kind of surge either here or somewhere related to COVID. We'll go back to CNN. We'll come back to this. So we can all already see that they're basically talking about right here. only 4 states trending down, which means they're trending up, but it's the cases. Miami-Dade to be flexible with COVID-19 rules during Trump rally, because that's in Florida. I think you have, who is that, Rick DeSantis? He's a Republican. That's more normal in Florida. You look at places like Sweden. They didn't have any lockdowns. They seem to be doing just fine. I'm in California. It's insanity. I'm fine, relatively speaking, but for many people, it's really not good at all. And so, at least they're highlighting something here, but it's not like a positive highlight. Trump criticizes lockdowns in Europe as COVID-19 cases surge. I told you, on the continent and in the U.S. I knew that because that's all they've been talking about. Is this surge in what? Cases, not deaths. Why aren't they writing about a surge in deaths? Because there is no surge in deaths. It's actually, I believe, going down. You can check me on that, but I'm fairly sure, based on recent evaluations of charts and stats, but I don't have the most current, so I'll make that qualification, that the death rate in many cases, many places, is actually dropping because the cases are rising, but not as many people are dying, and so the fatality percentage. In fact, I have a number here. I did, let me bring up, I thought I had an article here. I may have it somewhere. We'll look for it in a moment. Involving the, let me see if I have it here. Oh yeah. It's the COVID fatality rate. We'll go back to CNN in a moment. But as you can see, so that's the total cases in the United States. Right, we'll bring up a calculator. And I believe if we divide the total deaths by the total cases, yes, sorry, right, so I'll do that again. I believe it was 17,669 divided by 936,000. That's the fatality rate. And it's not rising. 0.018, so even rounding up, 0.02% in the United States. Less than 2%. And the cases are rising, not the deaths. And they've totally shut down everything in democratic states, not Republican-held states, governed states. So they're nuts. Fauci, all these people. Their articles are, again, constantly about what? COVID-19 cases. Oh, I'm trying to highlight. They highlight Trump criticizing the lockdowns in Europe, which they just enacted, right? Totally crazy again. Everyone's going crazy right before election again. As the cases surge, not the deaths. Right? If the deaths aren't surging and the cases are, it's only a matter of time before we develop a herd immunity in a way where we're just going to have to live with the result like any other sickness or disease. So let's take a look at some more of these articles here. Black voters in 2020 are facing 4 updated versions of Jim Crow at the voting booth. All these comments, you have CNN, of course, here highlighting things like that are associated with slavery in the time involving the Jim Crow laws. But those laws are based on laws that were enacted in Europe during the time when there were blacks, quote unquote, who were more in power and who were enslaving whites, quote unquote. They never tell you that. They don't even tell you the whole history of the Jim Crow laws or what those are based on in terms of the European laws or the laws in Europe and during the time when they were several hundred years ago, whites in many countries were subject to slavery by blacks, quote unquote. So, it's always a one-sided and inaccurate depiction of certain events in order to incite or otherwise incense people in a certain way. Let's take a look at a couple more things here. We'll kind of wrap it up in a moment, but just wanted to go over a few voting things and then talk about a few stuff. A few things, I should say. U.S. Marshals. Let me get that over here so you guys can see. Okay. On the left over here, U.S. Marshals find 27 missing children in Virginia. That's good. Nice to see them taking advantage of opportunities to free kids. And there was another big operation, I think in Ohio, where like 47, I think, or more children were freed. Might have been 47 arrested and 100 or more children freed. All these pedo abusers, right? Again, it goes back to the whole pizza, Obama, and all this stuff. And the gate thing, and of course the Podestas, and all these people like Hillary who were, I believe, represented in various cases, different pedos or abusers of women. She represented someone against a rape victim, made very disparaging comments about her. They never talk about that here. And so, let's take a look at a few more. They highlight Obama here, shooting jumpers with LeBron. See, again, you can make the association, right? We got Obama through the whole sun, moon, stars, pizza, Biden, Hillary, all the things that were associated with their time and power. And since then, the people they support, Epstein, all these people. Epstein's a little bit bigger issue, though, that we may talk about another time. But the whole sun and moon and stars connection, right? Beyonce, all those symbols and things I showed you. Baphomet, comic pizza. So, let's see, what else do we got here? Where's the news? Even the fake news is just so lame. U.S. election, let's take a quick look. What you need to know. Let's see, I don't know these ads, I don't need to know that, right? November 1st, all right, on the campaign, Trump will visit Michigan, Iowa, all these states. Biden is in Pennsylvania. According to the fake news in this country, Biden has been leading the whole time by like massive amounts. You know, they've done everything they can to depress any potential. I think it's just had the opposite effect, though, because no one believes the media in this country anymore. They really don't. And I'm telling you from the perspective of a person who only relatively recently has been more involved with politics, mainly biblical Watchtower stuff, you know. But they're nuts, right? The fake news in this country, man, they are nuts. And the way they talk and talk down certain things, I'm trying to get it right here. It's so disgusting. I apologize. What we need to know, I'm sorry. It's now too late to mail in your ballot. Okay. Days until election, Miami-Dade. Okay, these are kind of the stories that highlight alleged harassment of the Biden campaign in Texas. Nothing really major here. So, you know, we'll have to kind of keep an eye on some of these. Let's check out MSNBC real quick. See what else we got going. Mary Trump says president expects reckoning, if not real. A reckoning. Well, the Democrats will go nuts, that's for sure. But, you know, there are enough Republicans and others in different branches of government to where Trump has not made everyone his enemy. He's made some, but, you know, you're not going to make all friends when you're trying to change things for the better. It's just not going to happen. I'm not saying everything he's done has been for the better in ways that it's like I'm all in support of. It's just, overall, I will tell you, most people in this country see Trump as doing good for the country and trying to create better business conditions for this country and for those we do business with. That's obvious. I don't think anyone could really even dispute that, although you might still not like it. And again, I'm not like this major party person. It's my first year really of even voting if I do. And it will be tomorrow if I do. So, either way, I'm thoroughly familiar with the issue, so I'm all prepared and everything. I wanted to do this show first. And, you know, I think it's clear that the Democrats represent a threat right now. an existential threat to Christianity in their policies of promoting these different abusive relationships, abortion, breaking U.S. laws, and openly using symbols like sun, moon, and stars, pizza, all the stuff. I'll put that article, the link to the article I wrote below, to promote this immoral, anti-Christian agenda. And anyone, even someone like Trump, who isn't like an open, ardent Christian supporter, he's not a threat to Christianity. And he's against seeing Christianity as a threat. So he becomes a threat to the Democrats. That's why they don't like him. That's why they don't like Russia. Right? They use Russia as a political tool against conservatives because they know conservatives politically are aware of Russia. But religiously and morally, Russia's a lot more like conservative values to some extent. They have their nut stuff too, but Russia's not like a pro-homo government. Not at all. No pro-homo, no pro-pedo. Right, they're more controlling in ways that aren't good, but the Democrats hate the Russians because the Democrats are pro-homo. Right? Obama, he's a closet homo. It's all about the homo stuff. Like that bracelet. Sun, moon, stars. Anti-Christian stuff. Fine. You want to be that way, fine, but see, they're coming against us to shut us down and then to promote their abusive practices in place of it. Not just coexist like they like to say, right? So they know the Russians aren't going to go pro-homo or pro-pedo. But Trump knows they're not that way either, and so he understands that the antagonism there doesn't really involve him. But if he doesn't survive this, he could be the target of attack. Just a couple more things. All right, so MSNBC talk about Trump attacking American. Trump's attack on American government won't end if he loses, right? Trump's attacking the American government. That's insanity for any non-far leftist or liberal whack job. You can't prove it. You can believe it, fine. The facts don't show that. The facts show that the Democrats are attacking the government by trying to make it as massive as possible and then, of course, use it to abuse free enterprise. Trump's bonkers rally playlist is a perfect metaphor for his campaign. Right? Trump's attack. Trump's bonkers. The data predicts a Biden win. Right? Russian hackers are targeting U.S. hospitals. The White House is going after the victims, not the perpetrator. We should have started with MSNBC, huh? Maybe next time we'll do a full MSNBC news reviews update. Why white Americans are finally talking about election violence. Right? It's always something racial, color-oriented without the quotes. But look at here, just in these 7 little articles. Right? Exhaustion. Exhaustion and burnout in one sentence related to election. A November nightmare. Number 3, Russian hackers targeting U.S. hospitals. Like one of the most vulnerable places to stir your emotion. White House goes after the victims. The people in the hospital. Not the perpetrators. 4, why white Americans are finally talking about violence. White Americans and violence. Same sentence. 5, Trump's attack on American government. 6, Trump's bonkers rally. 7, the data predicts a Biden win. My election anxiety is violently rejecting that. In addition to their exhaustion, burnout with election here. Look at that. 7, I should have. And next time I will. Next time. MSNBC will be our focus on our news reviews number 4. But I hope I've left you with something to think about and given you some things to think about where it concerns my views on politics and how I got involved with it at all. And I don't belong to either party. I'm a non-party political person. So they give you the option when you register to vote, which I did, you can choose different parties or no party affiliation. I don't know enough, nor do I really want to be involved with a party, especially if I don't know everything about it in ways where I'll be representing it, kind of. So just no party. But I'm going to vote for things that I think are good or bad in ways that would represent my views and beliefs as a Christian witness of Jah. Jah is the great God. Jesus is the Messiah and the Golden Rule. How's that best going to benefit us in society? I want to help people. I'm not here to control people. Not even religiously, right? So why would I want to do that politically? I don't. I want us to be able to choose and to thrive and to grow together, even with the weeds, until the end. Right? I don't want these people making it worse for us. That doesn't mean I think everything people like Trump or the conservatives or other groups are going to do is going to make it better. But I know, as I showed through the association of signs and symbols and other stuff, that one group in this election, at least, the Democrats, represent a lot of things I don't love. And a lot of things that, according to the Bible, I'm really not to love, I'm supposed to dislike to an extreme because they're so dangerous and bad for human beings. So with that in mind, I thank you for joining me. I look forward to spending more time with you another day and talking about these and other related issues. Next, I'll be talking more about some of the biblical stuff that we're most often involved with here on my channel. But it's sometime after the election, probably in a week or two, not next weekend, but maybe the following weekend or thereafter. We'll come back to news reviews, do number 4, focus on some other outlets, talk about some of the post-election stories. We'll see what happens. All right, let's trust in Jah. Let's do our best. Pray for peace, to give us a chance to speak the truth in Jesus' name.